this small creature. Not just an appreciation of this creature, but some guidance. And I found something so incredible, I'm baffled by it. I found a hadith of our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam considered sahih. وَالَّذِي بِنَفْسِي يَدِي. I swear by the one who has my life in his hand. Allah's Messenger could have said anything without swearing, but he swears by Allah first. Because what he's about to say, it must be really incredible. And he says, إِنَّ مَثَلَ الْمُؤْمِنِ كَمَثَلِ النَّحْلَةِ. The example of the believer is just like the example of the bee. I'm sitting there going, subhanallah. First Allah told us that He reveals to the bee. Now Rasulullah says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that if you want to be a mu'min, you should be just like the bee. What am I going to be like the bee? How am I going to be like the bee? What is the bee going to teach me about my iman? About how to live as a believer? Apparently this is so serious that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam swore by Allah first and then said that. Must be something really serious. So he told us some things we should pay attention to, and there are many more. But I want you to look at what the Rasul says, alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, أَكَلَتْ طَيِّبًا. It eats well. It eats good and pure. When a bee goes to a bed of flowers, it doesn't take the flower that's immature. It doesn't take the flower that's gone bad. It doesn't even go to a flower that it can smell somebody else has already gone. Some other bee from another hive has already sat on it. It does not go to that flower. It goes to a fresh, clean, pure flower. It only goes to that. The first aspect of our iman highlighted here is the rizq we pursue. Not just the food we eat, but the rizq we pursue. The job you're going to go get. The business you're going to go start. The money you're going to make. And the food you're going to eat. Look for the pure thing. Look for the thing that's pure. Look for the best. And the bee doesn't settle for less. It keeps looking until it finds the very best. So you know what? We're supposed to be high achievers. This is part of the attitude of a mu'min. فَلْيُتْقِنْهُ. He should perfect it. إِذَا عَمِلَ مِنْكُمْ عَمَلًا. Everyone among you, when you do something, you should perfect it. You should do the best. And that's what the bee does. It goes for the best. That's the first thing. Then he says, وَوَضَعَتْ طَيِّبًا. It eats well, but it also, the way it sits on the flower, the way it sits down is really nice. It's good and pure. And you have to study that. What that means, you won't know until you study a bee. When you learn about bees, you find out that they take pollen, which flowers need. They're going to eat from the flower, but they never go to eat from the flower until they will give the flower a lot more than they will take. They will give it life. They will give it pollen. So and all of us have relationships. Just like a bee has a relationship with a flower, every one of us is in relationships. And in every single one of my relationships and every single one of your relationships, you get something and you give something. In your marriage, you give something and you get something. With your parents, you give something and you get something. With your teachers, you give something and you get something. With your employer or your employees, you give something and you get something. There's always a give and take. But the bee gives a lot more than it takes. It gives a lot more than it takes. And what it gives makes the life of the recipient better. And what it takes doesn't harm the recipient. What it takes doesn't harm the flower. وَضَعَتْ طَيِّبًا. The way it sits, it's very nice. And by the way, it has to sit right on the most delicate part of a flower. And the bee is actually a heavy creature, relatively speaking, to a flower. So if it puts its entire weight on the flower, the petal or the piece that it's sitting on, where it's going to extract from, it can actually break. So it keeps hovering, so it doesn't put its entire weight on it. Its wings keep flipping, so it doesn't put its whole weight on it. What are we learning? You have a relationship, but you keep demanding and demanding and demanding and demanding and demanding until the people that love you, your friends, your employees, and your spouse, they break. You want something, sure, but don't take too much. Take it easy. Don't put so much pressure that they break. And if you want something, give more, bring something first, and then demand. And when you demand very little. Just enough. Just enough. So وَضَعَتْ طَيِّبًا. And then the Messenger ﷺ says, okay, it sits well, it finds the good place to sit on, it eats well. The other benefit of that is when another bee from another hive is passing by and it sees a bee eating from a flower, it doesn't even say, let me wait and let me just go mess everything up. Because you know, if the two different hives, they go to the same flower, the flower gets messed up, it cannot pollinate. That flower is going to die. So the bee recognizes that this flower has already got a relationship with that hive. I shouldn't come to it. It comes close, it smells it, it senses it, and it goes to another flower that hasn't been touched yet. So you know what we do, right? Somebody opens up a shop. We're like, oh, it's getting good business. I should open up the same exact shop right across the street from him and take all of his customers. As soon as a customer is about to walk into his store, hey, brother, just come here, let me show you something. What does we do? Let this guy live. There's plenty of other places I can go. Allah's rizq is vast. I don't have to take the food out of his plate to eat on my plate. This is what we do, right? There are people who, they are so stingy that I know Muslim professionals that are making good money. I know doctors, they make good money. And then they have a med student, somebody who's looking for an internship in the hospital, and they don't recommend him. Because maybe 5 years down the line, he'll make more money than me. 10 years down the line, I wouldn't want that. We don't even like helping each other out. The attitude of a believer is, look, this one's earning his rizq. I should go earn my rizq somewhere else. I shouldn't, cut his rizq. It's not a cutthroat attitude like in corporate societies. It's not cutthroat. You're not there to take somebody else's money away and make your money. I just got to get mine, that's all I care about. Subhanallah. So he says, وَوَقَعَتْ فَلَمْ تَكْسِرْ. It sits, but it doesn't break. It puts demands, it takes, but it doesn't break. It takes in the best way. What a great way to eat. What a great way to live. And this is not just about money, it's also about relationships, as I was trying to say before. In every one of our relationships, what we're learning then, if we're like a believer, if we truly understand the lesson of the bee, that the Rasul ﷺ is making so much emphasis for us to understand, then we have to learn, am I putting too much pressure on my children? Am I demanding too much from my parents? Am I asking too much from my husband? Am I asking too much from my wife? Am I asking too much from my friends? Am I too hard on my employees? Am I too hard on my teachers? You have to ask those questions because we want to be like the bee. And then he says at the end, فَلَمْ تُكْسِرْ, or فَلَمْ تُفْسِدْ actually. It doesn't break the flower and it doesn't cause corruption. One of the most remarkable things about bees is the flowers they go to are very far from where they themselves are. Their hives are far and the flowers are much further away. So they will go at a distance of sometimes many miles, and then when they come back to their hive. And their hive it's not just their own home. They have a big neighborhood. Everybody lives in that hive. So Allah taught them to do a particular dance. They hover in the air a certain way, which actually tells the rest of the bees the coordinates of the other flowers. Look, I just made some rizq for myself, but you guys will benefit from this rizq too. I will point you to it. And it actually gives them navigation. It's called the bee dance. And it's a popular term uses the bee dance. It does it before the other bees so they can all get rizq too. They can all go eat too. And they can build their community together. They can build the hive together. So it recognizes that when you benefit someone else, it's not competition. When you benefit someone else, we're all getting beneficial. We're all benefiting. I can't build a hive by myself, the bee recognizes. All of us have to do well. What happens in the Muslim community when we don't have iman? When somebody's doing well, we get jealous. And if you're doing well, you want to make sure you don't tell anybody else how you got there. So where do you get your supplies? I don't know, I forgot. So where did you apply for a job? What is your resume? I don't know, I lost the file. You don't want to help anybody out because you're like, this competition. Why would I help competition? Why would I let them get a seat on the table? No. We can't have that. Everybody's got to look out for themselves. And the Rasul of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recognizes the endless wisdom that will come from learning from this bee because Allah Himself told him, look at the wahi that comes to the bee. وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ. Down to the path it takes. Allah calls it سُبُلَ رَبِّكَ. The path, if you see a bee, it goes around in circles and wiggles and you can't tell a clear flight path. And Allah says every turn it takes is the pathway of its master. It's the pathway Allah made it take. And Allah calls it dhululan also. The hal in the ayah uses dhululan. And dhululan suggests that it moves with humility. Allah describes the bee moving with humility. It's got a job. It's got an important function. It's on a mission. But just because it's on a mission doesn't mean that it's arrogant. You know, when people become busy, they become arrogant. I'm too busy for you. I have no time for you. You know, call me later. So some of you have a good job and you don't have time to call your mother back. Right? This is dhululan. Even if it's going to do work, it moves with humility. SubhanAllah. So Allah Azza wa Jal finally, in this 2 minutes that I have left, one last thing about bees. There's many things to talk about, but just one last thing. Allah Azza wa Jal made this creature incredible, and He made it do this work. It's earning its livelihood. You can think of these lessons as this bee has relationships, it's benefiting itself, and it's benefiting the community, the environment around it. But above and beyond that, if enough of them do that, they create a hive. And in that hive you get honey. And that honey benefits way beyond those bees. فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ. There is cure and healing for humanity from that little